Wow. I've never sounded so good. Am I up yet?
Yes.
What's up, everybody? What's up, Bethel? How you doing? Let's hear it. Let's hear it. Let's hear it. Wow, what a great introduction. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. First of all, thank you, Cam. Cam, look, I can only endorse everything what Amish said and everybody else has said about Cam. He is also, I had my same experience with him. Look, I get inundated by people coming to me wanting to do podcasts. Everyone started one during COVID. However, his persistence, his intellect, his humility, his perseverance were some of the qualities that made it to me. It was just somebody I couldn't say no to. We ended up, I think, meeting at an equinox, sitting on a couch, and just ended up, I had to share my experience with him. He has an amazing ability of sort of opening people up and making people feel comfortable, but at the same time getting as much information and making the experience of interacting with him on a human level something that's that special, right? In this world that we have, like social media and all this disengagement that we've had since COVID, that one-on-one humanist experience is something that I hold really dear in my heart. So when you meet somebody like this young man who gets that at a young age, to understand that even though we've got all this crazy chatter and noise going around, the human interaction, one-on-one, perseverance, humility, intellect, is a force to be reckoned with. And so I'm honored to be here. He invited me. I was hoping that I'd be able to be there in person. Unfortunately, some health issues prevented me from that, but I said I'm going to be there one way or the other, whether we do it on Zoom or whether, they airlift me in and drop me on a, by kite. I'll show up at this event no matter what. So I'm really honored and happy to be here. Shout out to Cam and to Bethel University.
Hey, thank you so much, Peter. To give you guys reference, because Peter is from the floor right now, we're going to do his Q&A directly following this interview. So he won't be joining the full audience Q&A with the other speakers. So you have the chance right after this, get your questions ready, and then we can ask Peter some questions directly following this interview. But Peter, as you know, as we discussed, I would like to go kind of from your roots, where you're at in New York, life in New York, born in New York. Kind of tell us about that journey, starting in New York. What was your family life like, and what were your interests growing up, and kind of navigate from there?
Awesome. Thanks for the question. So look, I want everyone to realize that I'm here on the balcony of the New York Stock Exchange, the greatest financial institution in the world. As I look out the window, I can see the statue of George Washington on the corner of Wall and Broad Street, where George Washington was actually inaugurated. Okay? Across the street is a cemetery where is housed Alexander Hamilton. Alexander Hamilton and I actually went to high school together. He's dead over there. I'm still here, relevant, trading the markets. This is the most powerful neighborhood in the world. This is where commerce began in New Amsterdam in the 16 and 1700s, right? The wall of Wall Street is basically what demarcated New Amsterdam. Boats used to come into the lower Manhattan. They used to walk up to a buttonwood tree that was outside the New York Stock Exchange, and everyone used to start doing commerce there. 1600s, 1700s. In 1792, 24 brokers decided to make a deal called the Buttonwood Agreement. They set down business standards for going forward, all things to do with selling commodities and whatnot. Everything coming from all over the world in the mid-17th century used to come down to this neighborhood and be traded out front this exchange. As things went on, 1800s, 1900s, they built this building. The ceiling is all gold. It houses the New York Stock Exchange, the greatest financial institution in the world. While we don't do the volumes we did in the old days here because of the deregulation and all the other trading platforms that are around the world, we are the ultimate pricing mechanism for all markets going forward. My beginning, look, my parents are immigrants. My parents are both Holocaust survivors. They came here in 1949 after spending 4 years in prison in Auschwitz in Eastern Europe. They came to America. My father was a doctor. My mother was a homemaker. They sort of found their American dream, created a beautiful family here in New York City. I grew up. I was a very privileged background, education, family, unconditional love was a big part of my upbringing. But, at an early age, this is about innovation, this is about entrepreneurship, this is about the journey. And my journey has taken me from that beginning, and it was not a humble beginning, it was a very privileged, loving, wonderful beginning, but to where I am today. And it's been a 40-plus year career, some say 140-plus career. But it's a matter of, life is not a sprint, it's a marathon, right? It's a matter of what you do along the way, how many times you get knocked down and get back up, the things you do, the people you surround yourself with on this journey. I'm a big team player. I'm a humanist. I don't engage technology in the biggest way possible. I am a more one-on-one people person. I like to create people around me who are trying to empower me and people that I'm not a guy who wants to die with a lot of toys. I want to be someone who can help other people to be their best self along this journey. That to me is success. That to me is fulfillment. So I started out, I was a bit of a hustler during high school. I was doing I used to sell t-shirts at Grateful Dead shows. I was always doing some kind of business. I ended up going to the University of Massachusetts in Amherst. I got a degree in agriculture. That was my first dream. I had spent a year living in Israel when I was 17 years old. Kind of got into that for a little while. Thought I was going to be some kind of an advanced farmer early in the 70s. That was not to be my journey. Halfway through, I finished my studies in a full degree in agriculture, and then I have an older brother who my father had adopted during the war, who went on to become a very, very successful businessman, a bit of a corporate raider here on Wall Street. And he said, you know what, Peter, it's about time to get down to business. I believe you would be a really good within the finance world. So I ended up going on and getting a degree in finance and international business at the University of Massachusetts. I completed my degree. As many of you experienced, maybe you're on this path. I did the 5-year plan, not the 4-year plan. I had a lot of trouble sort of realizing how much I loved going to college and didn't really want to leave. But it was time to put on my big boy pants and move on. I came back to New York City where I grew up, and I did a number of things. Look, entrepreneurship has been a big part of my life. So I came back to New York. I enrolled in Baruch University to get a master's in business. In the middle of the night, one night, I came up with the idea, jazz, music, and management had been something I'd doing during college. I had actually become well acquainted with a number of well-known jazz musicians, and I built a jazz management business at the age of 19, traveling around the world, booking jazz concerts all over at all the festivals throughout Europe. And that was something that I really loved, so it was a big passion for me. I came back to New York. I started getting my MBA at Baruch. I ended up opening up a record store in Bleecker Street in Greenwich Village, Lower Manhattan. The record store was sort of a home for all the famous jazz musicians. It was an art gallery. Excuse me. It was an art gallery. It was a coffee shop, and it was a record store. That was I spent about a year there. It was incredible. I was managing jazz bands all over the world. But at the same time, the Wall Street started to call me. I started trading commodities. Look, back in the old day, before the internet, you used to open up the Wall Street Journal or open up the New York Times, and there would be all the listings of all the commodities and stocks in there. I don't even know. I haven't looked at a newspaper in decades, but I don't know if that still exists. But for some reason, I was able to start to analyze the movement of commodities, orange juice, lumber, potato, cotton. Anybody interested in commodities market is still an incredibly robust thing, and a lot of people have made a lot of money doing it. So I started trading commodities at home. So I had the record store during the day. I was going to school at night, and I was trading commodities in the morning. And I was able to sort of take a little bit of money I had been given by my parents, and I had turned about $1,500 into about $45,000 trading orange juice futures. It is a bit of a trading place story, you know, the movie with Eddie Murphy and whatnot. But as in that movie, I ended up did not really know the rules of trading. I ended up blowing up my account, and the account went back to zero. By the end of it, I was trading potato futures with $50 I had left. At this point, I realized it was sort of time. New York was a little bit crazy. It was the early 80s. I had an opportunity to go abroad. I had a friend who ran an oil company in West Africa. I was always on the move. I was always doing some kind of a hustle, and I had this vision that I needed to see everything before I could find an opportunity that really was what I wanted to do. You know, this is not my line, but I'm a big proponent of if you find something you love to do, you'll never work a day in your life. It's one of the things that I live by. And when I speak to young people all over the world as a motivational speaker, that's something I do. You need to find something that wakes you up in the morning, that gets your juices flowing, so that the work you do is not really work. It's a passion, right? It is a passion. And as you can see, the way I am on social media, I am passionate about education, motivation, inspiration. I'm passionate about markets. I'm passionate about inspiring young people to find something they love to do, but also within the finance and the branding world, which Wall Street is all about. I ended up moving to West Africa for 2 years. I ran the accounting for a Norwegian oil company in the People's Republic of Benin. While there, I just got involved in the culture and in the business and whatnot. In 1985, my stay there came to an end. I came back to New York City. My parents, as all parents would say, by the time you're 25, 26, it's time to get busy and get down to business and find a career. I came to Wall Street, May 23rd, 1985. I got a summer job as a teletypist on the floor of the exchange. Being an employee here at the New York Stock Exchange, it's not a matter of there's no training for the job of becoming a broker, which is one's end goal when coming down to Wall Street. This is not the upstairs. These are not the investment banks. These are not the brokerage firms upstairs. This is the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. It's where it's sort of, this is the point of execution. This is where people are actually doing the business. I buy and sell shares of stock every day. So there's no training for this job. In order to get a job here and stay here on the floor of the stock exchange, everybody, no matter who your parents are, where you came from, your level of education, you have to start at the bottom. Whether you start as a squad or a runner, whether you start as a teletypist at the beginning of the journey, that's where you start. And then over the years, you develop the trust and the knowledge of what you need to become and have the assets and the assets necessary to become a trader and a broker. I was able, it was a very amazing job back in those days before technology. We had in 1903, 1,366 seats on the New York Stock Exchange were issued, kind of like a taxi medallion. It gives you the right to trade stock. That's the opening bell. You're going to hear a little bit of noise. A company here is celebrating their IPO. Anyway, isn't that amazing? Stay here. I'll let you see what it looks like. But that's the opening bell. That's the floor of the exchange. Anyway, I'm here in real time.
Peter, I would love to talk about the expedited process that you became a broker quick than the typical process. Get to that.
There you go. Okay, so the job of being a broker was everybody's dream in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, right? Obviously, it became my dream when I came here as a teletypist in 1985, and I walked onto the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. The adrenaline, the human element in this place. There were 8,000 people in this room. The energy, the excitement, I felt I had arrived. It was for me, and I knew it instantly. And people will find that as you go along the journey. You should scrape and dig and go to a place where finally, when you arrive there, you know that you're at the delta of everything that is positive, entrepreneurial in a lot of different ways. You know, it's things that get you want to wake up in the morning and go to work and do your thing. So anyway, my journey to becoming a broker on the exchange took about 3 years. Historically, back in those days, it took about 10 to 12 years to become a broker because nobody wanted to leave the job. It was an amazing job. I was lucky. I was kind of good at what I did. I rose up. I was a teletypist, a clerk, an option clerk, a retail clerk. These are the jobs that you go through to develop your integrity, character, and honesty and transparency here on the floor to let people know who you are. Because we're dealing with billions of dollars every single day. This is not a place where you have to show up every day. You've got to be there, but you've also got to have the qualities necessary to trade this market, which is thinking quickly on your feet, be good with numbers, and be good with people. So in 1988, I ended up getting a seat on the New York Stock Exchange. That was the beginning of my career. I have now been here for almost 40 years. My job here has always been one of a trader. However, along the way the trading has gone here on the floor, the whole business has changed, obviously. Look, back in the day of open outcry, screaming and yelling, you can obviously see I can scream and yell. That was a business that I really loved. I mean, if you've ever seen the original movie Wall Street or Trading Places or any of these movies, not really The Wolf of Wall Street, but the original movie, where in the midst of open outcry auction markets, buying and selling stock was what I did very well. Okay, I was able to negotiate in a big way. Some people are good poker players, some people are good at other things. This was something that I'd find I was good at, and it got me up in the morning, and I've been doing it now for almost 40 years. So I will say this to say my career has morphed, as a lot of people's careers have. Technology has come into a lot of different businesses and outsourced the human element in lots of different ways, and it's across all businesses for sure. And it surely is here too. We now have handheld computers that can send out 1,000 orders. There's electronic trading. The nature of the business has changed in so many ways. However, the floor of the New York Stock Exchange is still the only human element market in the world. There is the Amsterdam Stock Exchange, where there are a few people. It was the first stock market to ever happen, started in the mid-1600s. My career, and I'm trying to describe my journey as far as just to share with you how I got to where I am, has changed a lot over the last couple of years. I ended up getting COVID. I was sort of patient zero on March 23rd, 2020. I ended up becoming incredibly ill. I got meningitis. I almost died. It was quite a situation. My life, unfortunately, has not been the same since. And I realized that there was I had to make some changes along the way. And I sort of also came into social media. For me, I'm a little aged out. I've been 55 for 9 years. I cap myself out at 55 because I'm young at heart. And obviously you can see I've got the energy for it. And I realized that there's a way, way bigger story to tell here. I come from a family with unconditional love, one of deep humanism. And for me, even though this marketplace, which has transitioned away from being a real big human, excited, adrenaline-filled existence, I realized that I had a much, much bigger mission and message to tell, and that would be to inspire, motivate, and educate the new generation of young traders that came along during COVID. We know everything changed on May 23rd, 2020, when the markets sold off so hard after the February 12th highs of everything before we realized that the world was sort of coming to an end around COVID. The market bottomed out there, but what changed is suddenly the world was all at home. Everybody had a couple of dollars that they'd been given in stimulus. The Weebles and the Robin Hoods and the internet and Wall Street Bets and Reddit and all that. Suddenly all eyes came to the New York Stock Exchange, came to the trading community. And we had an influx, and also the barriers to entry to get into the market. But look, to be a qualified investor back in the day, you had to prove, in the old days, right? Your parents and grandparents probably, you had to prove that if you invested money in the market and lost it all, it would have no effect on your standard of living for 5 years. Well, that's not something that most people can say, except if you're incredibly wealthy. So that kind of that separated your regular person, your average middle-class person, from investing in the stock market. So what changed in 2020 with Robinhood and the Webull and the total democratization of the trading community, that suddenly everybody with $100 and an iPhone could suddenly invest in the market? For me, I know a lot of people within the industry thought, we don't want those people around. In my world, that was one of the greatest things that could happen. I want you all to be invited to this party. I want everyone to invest in their future, create generational wealth. For me, you all are the next generation of the investing and trading community. So the fact that you've been invited to this party is amazing. The barriers to entry are all down. However, I realize 40 million people came into the marketplace in March of 2020, started trading the market, new retail investors. Okay, we had the meme phenomenon, unbelievable, the GameStops, the AMC, and whatnot. We had crypto and NFTs, and we do know that some people made a lot of money trading that wild market during 2020. You have to realize, in the eyes of a global pandemic, the market went up, got back to even after the pandemic. By August 16th, in 2007, during the financial crisis, it took 9 years to get back to even in the marketplace, even with the $800 billion stimulus that the Federal Reserve did. The Federal Reserve, whether you like Jay Powell or not, needed to do what they had to. It's my opinion. It's not political, it's financial. I believe we needed to put that money into the marketplace to prevent us from being on red lines after the complete economic global shutdown. What it did do was create this incredible enthusiasm, irrational as it may have been, within the marketplace, the investing and trading community. We got back to even by August 19, 2020. We were up 20% in 2020. We were up 28% in 2021. In the eyes of a complete economic shutdown, that was insane. We know why. There's trillions of dollars thrown into the market. There was all this new retail enthusiasm. That's all fine and good. But what I realized was 40 million people are now trading the market thinking this is a get-rich-quick scheme. This is easy. Anybody can hit a button. I'm going to buy GameStop at 2. I'm going to sell it at 483. I'm going to make tons of money. I'm going to post a picture on Instagram of me and my Bugatti with stacks of $10,000 bills, and it's all going to be fine and good. Wrong. Mistake. That didn't happen. Most people who got into the market, probably 80% of them, lost their money. They may have made a bunch of money, but they were not given the playbook, not given the rule book on how to negotiate a market that's this volatile and this crazy. So I took it upon myself as somebody who's a long timer here, and I don't call myself an old timer, but someone with a platform that I have on social media, which I'm really enjoying globally in the TikTok, IG world, motivational speaking all over the world, to educate and motivate the new young retail trader about how this really works, how to make money. It's not about how much money you make, it's how much you keep. To educate people about learning to navigate this market successfully and make money. I've taken it upon myself to try and educate people about buying stocks and not stuff, investing in their future, have a long-term look. If you're 20 years old and you put 250 million, excuse me. If you're 20 years old and you put $250 into the S&P 500, I've heard, I'm not your advisor, disclaimer, I've heard that by the age of 60, you will have a passive income of about $1.6 million. Nobody really understands that. It's called dollar cost averaging. It's a matter of really basically investing in your future as opposed to going out there. We are the greatest consumer generation in the world. We love to buy stuff. I'm sure you all have closets and houses full of tons of stuff. If the minute you buy it, it goes down in value. One of my messages and my missions is to get people to invest in stocks and not stuff. If your iPhone is not broken, you don't need the next one. Go buy some Apple, not a recommendation. If you've got 12 pairs of sneakers, you don't need another one. Go buy some Nike. So I've taken it upon myself as I'm curating my new career that has really brought me so much joy and fulfillment, is to try and educate and motivate the new young retail investor, which I imagine a lot of you in the audience are, to invest in your future, to realize that if you start now, okay, whether you round up or you start a small account or you learn about investing or you learn about technical analysis and risk management, this market is the most exciting place in the world. All eyes are on it. It's not going anywhere. Historically, over time, markets do go up. Every crash and crisis we've seen since 1929 has been a better buying opportunity net than a selling opportunity. So I'm here to say, and I'm hoping that I can inspire and motivate you all to learn how this works, to invest in your future, to look at the long game, to find something you love to do, right? Whether it's entrepreneurship, whether it's finance, branding, marketing. As I sit here every day and I bring young people down here all the time, and they'll say, well, I don't really know what goes on in the stock market. Look, I can sit here and watch the stocks go by that have opened so far, and I'm watching Home Depot. You know all what Home Depot is about. IBM, one of the original chip companies. ICE is the company that owns the New York Stock Exchange. Johnson & Johnson, they made a vaccine for COVID. JP Morgan, one of the largest banks in the world. Coca-Cola, we all know what that's about, right? And they've diversified, so they're in good shape. Let's see, what else do we got here? Eli Lilly. So look, all the stocks that we trade here, all the companies that are public are things we're involved in on a daily basis. Find a company where you like the story. Find a company that's making money. Get invested in understanding what these companies are all about. One last thing I'll say before I toss it to Cam is, we are also in a world where it seems really important to me to actually find out the nooks and crannies, what's going on within the companies that we invest in. You want to know they're treating their employees right. You want to know the environment where people are working is a good one. You want to know that they're doing good things for the environment. You want to know that that company is doing their due diligence, not to destroy this world, but to make it a better place. So you guys are the future. You are the next generation. I'm here for you. If there's anything I can do to inspire, motivate you, educate you, I'm your guy. Let's go.
Amazing. Well, as you see, Peter, I mean, you've really lived like in the finance world, but you're also a genius marketer. I would love to cover, and I'm sure everyone else is curious, why the personality, why the hair? You've really leveraged it to pick up media, to pick up your personal brand, to be able to sell your own courses. Why is that, and how have you leveraged that to really build your brand to not only just be in the finance world on the floor, but grow something to actually be an influence towards others as well?
So, you know what? I did not know this was all going to happen. Obviously, look, I've been this guy for a long time. He sort of is, he's grown out of a lot of challenges. Look, we learn more from failures than we do from successes, right? And I know the internet says I'm worth $3.2 billion. That's not a fact. I'm not worth $3.2 billion or $3.2 million. I'm a humble guy who's working his butt off to try and empower other people along the way. So look, we learn things about ourselves every day. We need to accept who we are and what our assets are. With what I have, you said, I love the fact that it's a starting small summit. And, I always carry around a basketball. One of the reasons I carry around a basketball is that I'm losing use of my right arm from, I've developed a disease from long COVID. So it's kind of screwed up. I'm having surgery in a few weeks. But I've used this sort of as a fun tool. I was honored. There's a group called Earn Your Leisure. It's a young educational platform within the Black and brown community that has absolutely blown up globally. They're on world tour, and I was fortunate enough. They're all about creating generational wealth for the marginalized community in the United States and the world. And I've been able to connect with these gentlemen, and they're amazing. Two gentlemen, Troy and Rashad, who were actually basketball coaches in Westchester, decided to realize this was an opportunity to really disrupt the space within the investment and trading community. And they've just gone on the road. Ian Dunlap, called the Master Investor, Wall Street Trapper. So this incredible group that's got 10 million plus people within the Black and brown community that are really getting involved in trading and education and creating generational wealth. And so I've connected with them in a big way. I was honored to be able to perform with them at Madison Square Garden, sold out show, not doing music, not doing sports, but doing financial education. Can you imagine that? And I actually went on stage that day with my basketball, which I carry with me everywhere. And jokingly, I said to everyone, look, obviously, if you look at me, growing up, everyone thought I was going to be a major ball player. You guys don't know it, but I'm actually incredibly short. I'm starting small. That was what I kind of smiled at when you were giving the introduction. I started small. I'm still small, but I'm big in mind and motivation. So I actually said, you guys must think, growing up, I was going to be a big ball player. But obviously, that was not my journey. Financial education became my journey. Look, for me, at the end of the day, even though finance is my world, branding and marketing is something I find incredibly exciting. I got into social media. I'm a bit aged out of social media in so many ways. I think in 2015, I went on Instagram, and one of the, there are downsides to it and there are upsides to it. To be able to create a platform where I could share what I'm sharing to you guys gives me that opportunity. Social media does that, and I love that. To connect with like-minded people in all the different things I'm interested in, education, finance, and art. I'm a big proponent of art. I'm on the board of a number of companies, and I love to promote artists. That's what happened in my world. All these people, as we all know through social media, people who you show what you're interested in, social media will offer you, and to grow that kind of a community. So it happened organically. I started small, I kind of grew, and I would say, look, my adrenaline, my excitement for what I do has been a benefit and asset to me. The fact is, look, I've rose above a lot of Wall Street has changed. We don't have 8,000 people anymore. We have 600 here on the stock exchange. There are no longer 1,366 brokers. There's about 400. The business has changed. And what I learned was if you're in a business that's changing and it's being outsourced to technology in certain ways, you got to change. You've got to pivot. Be aware of that, ladies and gentlemen. At no time do you ever give up on your dream. You just pivot, reevaluate, look at it in a different way and try and find another route. It's like going on a detour. We're on a road trip and we're going somewhere. We don't abort the trip just because the bridge is down. We will find another way to get what we want. And that's what I've done. So branding and marketing at the end of the day is something that I love. It excites me. It's why I come to work here every day. I don't know if you can see the way this room is set up, but we have ticker tapes all over with all the brands and all the logos of all the 3,800 companies that are public companies here. And that excites me. Look, we are the greatest consumer generation in the world. We love to buy stuff. We love instant gratification, right? So I've taken all of those things. I've taken what I know are my assets. Look, life is not easy. Life is full of challenges. And I know, look, I have a young daughter. I have a son. My son is my partner here. Look, we've just gone through 2.5 years of COVID and isolation. There are issues that everyone goes through about finding confidence, finding that mojo, finding something you love to do. Life is not easy, but the journey is worth it, right? It's not about dying with the most toys. It's about how much you can empower people along the way to be their best self. I'm a team player. Surround yourself with people who want the best for you and also who complement your personality. I have to understand who I am before I can be my best self. Accept who I am. I'm a short, funny-looking guy with a lot of energy who loves what he does. That's who I am. How can I benefit from that? How can I share that experience, strength, and hope with everybody out there? And how can I share my mission and message with you guys so I can change your world, right? Find a mentor. I have a number of different mentors. There's a gentleman named David Meltzer. He's the guy they made the Jerry Maguire movie about, one who got into sports management way back in the day. He's the gentleman who created the whole concept of endorsement and sponsorship. He ended up becoming a multimillionaire by 28, and by 30, he crashed and burned and went bankrupt. He dug himself out of that spiritual and financial hole, and now he's my motivator and motivator to people all over the world. It's not how many times you get knocked down, it's how many times you get back up and find your dream and go for it. So all those things are what make me me. I wish everyone to find that in them, right? It's not always going to feel good, but just realize that you're doing good. Wake up every day with some level of kindness and gratitude for what's going on. And this isn't easy. Trust me, I've had crazy challenges along the way. You may look at me and think, this guy has got shitloads of money, excuse my language, and he's had this incredible life and la la la. I have had an incredible life. It has had incredible impediments along the way. If I just go back to my parents, whose whole families and generation were murdered, and they came to America, they wiped off the dust and started again, as did I. They related to other human beings. They rebuild their lives. Stuff's going to happen, okay? Challenges are going to happen. Headwinds are going to come up against you. I recently did a new podcast, which I'm launching with a lady named Nicole Lappin, called Money News Network, and I interviewed a young lady who's a student here at Baruch College, and she's somebody who came to college, humble beginnings. She scratched and burned. She's graduated college with a degree and a full-time job already set up for her at Citibank. And a lot of people, they'll ask me, and I'm far from college age, how do I find a job? How do I find a career? How do I get myself to where you are? And so I interviewed this lady named Alicia. She was spectacular. And she said, I wake up every morning with a mission. I do something for myself every day. I knock on every door I can. I do not take no for an answer. Within a humble self, you can become your best self. You do not have to let the world and all the powers that be around us that tend to knock us down define you. Don't let your past define you. Look towards the future and just become your best self.
Amazing. So I saved some time for audience questions. Peter and I talked yesterday, and once Peter gets going, he covers the story so well and summed up exactly how I end my podcast with sharing some advice. But Peter, I would love to lastly touch on, what's a day at the floor look like to you? How many stocks are you trading a day? How stressful day in and day out? It's a good day, a bad day. How do you pivot and how do you adjust your lifestyle? Leaving the floor from there.
Okay, I appreciate the question. So I wake up in the morning, I have 4 espressos, 2 fresh squeezed orange juice. I thank God for another day, and I head my ass to work down the highway. I get down to the floor. I get down to the floor of the stock exchange. My son is already here. I've already availed. I'm not a reader, unfortunately. I have a bit of a spectrum-y brain, so I like to avail myself of information through listening. Okay, I haven't read a book since The Cat in the Hat. I don't recommend it. Please read as much as you can. It's just not the way my brain is wired. But I try to avail myself. I found 4 or 5 different sort of people who I think are way smarter than me. I know I look like Einstein. I'm not that friggin' smart. I am sort of the delta of a lot of information. People love to tell me about what's going on, and I love to hear everybody's opinion and all that other stuff, and then I'll make a decision for myself. So I find out where the markets are trading all over the world. I find out what the news is. I go on, let's say, Market Watch, for instance, and find out what economic news is coming out. I get on the phone with my customers. I find out what their agenda is of the day. Are we going to be trading the S&P 500? Are we in individual stocks? Are earnings coming out? Is the CPI number coming out? What do I think about what's going to happen? As a trader, right now, look, my career has changed over the years. I used to do a lot of institutional investing for large brokerage firms. Over the last 15 years, I've actually built a trading model around trading the S&P 500. The order flow that comes to the New York Stock Exchange is very specific, right? You can use, there are 70 other trading venues around the world that you can use to execute stock. The New York Stock Exchange is the preeminent pricing mechanism of all the world's stocks. That's where I am. So I use the benefits that I'm availed to by being a trader and a broker. I have the right, the license through the seat on the stock exchange that I have. My badge number, I don't have it on, is number 588. I've had that badge for 37 years. So right now what I do is I trade the volume that comes into the New York Stock Exchange on the opening and the close. I'm looking for a bit of a dislocation. We know, if anyone's out there that trades at all, we know the S&P 500, what's called the spiders, the future on the S&P 500, trades 24 hours a day around the world based on opinion, based on news, right? Netflix news comes out, earnings come out, the CPI number, PPI number, J Powell's going on, all the different things that go into what people think the market should be doing. Recession, inflation, interest rates, all these incredible, look, the world used to be a 100-piece jigsaw puzzle. Now the world is a 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle. So there's so much more information I need to avail myself of. However, I don't let that define how I'm trading. I am basically a day trader, the longest position I take in this new world I'm in. I've been doing this for about 13 years. I trade the S&P 500, the 347 stocks that are traded here in the New York Stock Exchange. There are 53 names that are traded on NASDAQ. A lot of the bigger tech names are traded on the NASDAQ marketplace. I focus on the stocks that are here. I focus on all the volume that comes into the New York Stock Exchange. I try and find a dislocation between the S&P trading away in the other markets and where it's going to trade in New York. It's a little more complicated than I can do on this podcast, but I try and find a disruption between where it's trading and where I think it should trade relative to the notional dollar value of what's coming into the markets, right? Markets move up and down due to volume, but more importantly, due to the price of a stock. 1,000 shares of Carnival Cruise at $20 is not as significant moving the market as 1,000 shares of Visa at $200, right? So I analyze the notional dollar value of stocks coming in and out of the market, and I will make judgments on a daily basis. My longest trade is 2 hours. I get into the stock in the morning for about half an hour, and I trade the market relative to that. And then in the afternoon, I built a model called the Market on Close Trading Model between 2 o'clock and 4 o'clock. So my day is all about identifying why stocks are moving, forensically analyzing why the market's doing what it's doing. I spend a lot of my day, so I trade the market on the opening. I spend the rest of the morning going out and doing educational videos for people. I run an academy called Wall Street Global Trading Academy, teaching thousands of people all over the world about technical analysis and risk management, how to navigate this market successfully. We do Q&As, we do mentorship and coaching. If anyone is interested, please reach out. I'm happy to help you on that journey. And then in the afternoon at 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock, I trade the S&P 500. I do it aggressively. We have a fund that I work for that's got $200 to $600 million under management. We are a big player in the game, and we get in, we get out. At 4 o'clock, we are done. It is a day trading game. Mm-hmm. That's what I do now.
Wow.
In my spare time.
Yeah. That's amazing. I want to, so we stick to the schedule here slightly. We'll take 2 questions from the audience for Peter. We'll have some runner microphones, and Peter, just make sure that you can hear these microphones and let us know. So whoever has the first one. Yeah, right here.
Hi, thank you. So you mentioned that negotiation is a special skill of yours, and it's an important skill for any business. And so my question is, what advice do you have for us to improve our success in negotiation?
Cam, in negotiation, what?
In negotiation in general.
So what advice do you have to improve? You talked on negotiation to improve that negotiation skills, is that correct? Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Stay with me a minute. Okay, so it's a really good question. Look, I think, you know what, I think it's important. Look, I think, first of all, I think it's really important to find a mentor, right? Look, at the end of the day, you guys are younger people. You are not supposed to know and have the skills of negotiating, have the skills of the human entity in life. Look, you are an empty palette. So what you need to do is you should find yourself a mentor. I'm happy to be your mentor if you wish. Negotiating skills are amazing. It's really, look, I did not have that skill all the time. As a younger person, I was a little bit feisty. I didn't realize that, that my temper could get me in trouble. I sort of acted before I thought, patience and it's called restraint of pen and tongue, right? Before you're going to react to something, think about what you're going to do. These are and it's not an easy skill to have. As I said, I would say probably until the last 10 years, I was really not that good at it. But along the way, I've learned it's better to be happy than right. It's better to be kind and less aggressive. Once you look in this world we live in right now, once you put something out into the world, you cannot take it back. So it's really important to pause before you say or do anything. Look, once again, negotiation is also how you get to where you want to go. Okay, I'm a firm believer that, don't listen to the naysayers. Don't listen to people. Look, if you have a dream, first of all, keep it to yourself. Don't tell everybody about it, because they're either going to say yes or no. If they say yes, they're just kissing your butt, excuse my language. If they say no, they're probably just jealous and envious. At the end of the day, if you have a dream, keep it to yourself. Keep a journal of every day of the thoughts you have and whatnot. Let your journal be your guide to learning how to navigate this world. This world is really not easy, and learning how to negotiate and be your best self and deal with other people doesn't happen overnight. But find somebody whose act you like. Find somebody who's doing the right thing. Find somebody who's learned how to get their way through the nooks and crannies of life. Look, as I said to you, it is not something that came to me naturally. I'm a bit of a boisterous, loud, obnoxious guy. I sort of whirled my way through life in a lot of different ways. But I realize at the end of the day, I have a bigger message and a mission. And so, also, you know what? I have a better answer to your question. When I introduced you to the lady, Alicia, who's 24 or who's 22 and about to graduate from Baruch, and I asked her what's the best thing, the best quality she learned in herself to become who she is. And she said, look, people will, I'll give you another example. It's a good question. I mean, that's why I'm sort of freestyling here, because it's a really good question. People will come up to me. Look, I've become like a well-known guy. I'm the most famous guy on Wall Street. I go out in the street, people recognize me and whatnot. And it's very curious. Some people will just walk up to me. I stand outside right here at the stock exchange. Everyone's coming. People recognize me from social media or whatever. There will be people who will come up to me and just say, hey, can I take a picture with you? And I always do it because it's just who I am. And then there are people who say, introduce themselves and say, hi, my name's John. I go to school. I do this. You've been an inspiration to me. At the end of the day, taking a selfie with someone is absolutely meaningless if you don't get my contact information. right? That's a great negotiating skill. At the end of the day, find out what value you can bring to a situation. And say, it's look, you bring value to somebody who is a billionaire, a CEO, it doesn't matter. You are a young person with an amazing mind who can be an entrepreneur and an innovator in your own right. So never feel that you are less than anybody else out there. So come from a level of confidence. And when you want to engage someone, whether it's for an internship or a job, or you just want them to be your mentor, or you want to learn what they know, realize that you can add value to the situation. Don't ask what they can give you. Ask what you can bring to the situation, value to them. I think that's the best thing I can tell you.
Amazing. All right, we have time for one more. Or we have a lot over here. I saw the hand over here in the gray shirt first. Yeah.
Hello, I'm Salim Ogala. And my question today is, do you sleep? Because the stock market is global, and you find in Africa, the stock market opens at midnight, at 12, and this side will be closed. So how do you manage your time? Like, how do you benefit from that? Because, it's global. So my question is, do you sleep, and how do you manage your time? Because in Africa, the stock market closes at 12 midnight. It opens at 12 midnight, and here it's closed. So how do you manage that? Since I'm also into trading, and it's kind of hard because you have to wake up at 12 midnight this side because that's the time, stock market opens. So how do you manage your time, and do you sleep?
I got you. Good question. So look, I cannot be everywhere, and I cannot be up 24 hours a day. However, I try and identify where I can bring my most value, as I just described to you. Right now, I'm trading the New York Stock Exchange. I avail myself of the information of where other markets are trading. Right now, I love the fact that there's an amazing, robust stock market and commodities market going on in Africa. There are 1 billion retail traders starting to trade in India. The Middle East is absolutely blowing up with people in the trading community. The UK and Amsterdam is a huge place. But however, there are actually more traders in India than there are in the United States. For me, within my business model, I need to be able to control my world. So I don't need to know what's going on in Africa. I don't need to know what's going on in all those other markets because it does not impact my trading day. I can only do as much as I can do. I like to know what's going on everywhere, but my actual trading on a daily basis is strictly impacted by what goes on here. So I'm hyper-focused. I have a bit of an ADD thing with a little bit of a spectrum issue. So I'm able to hyper-focus and see what information I need from my world. Yes, it's good to know about what's going on all over the world, but it doesn't impact my life, and it's not putting money in my pocket from a business point of view. Then I need to hyper-focus on what does, because if my primary purpose is to make money for my customer and do the best job. In a market that goes up and down thousands of points, we could be in a bear market at noon and a bull market at 4. We could be down 1,500 points at 10 in the morning, and by lunchtime we're up 1,000 points. We've never seen this market this volatile. I've never seen this movie. I've seen every friggin' movie for 100 years. I've never seen a market like this. As I said to you, the market used to be a 100-piece jigsaw puzzle. It's now a 1,000-piece. There is absolutely a plethora of information coming into the market. All eyes are on everything. CPI, PPI, ISM, the interest rates, what's going on with the Fed, what's going on with the world, inflation, oil, the Saudis, whatever it may be. There's so much information. I need to piecemeal what information impacts what I'm doing, hyper-focus on it from 9 o'clock to 4 o'clock. What goes on after that is the rest of my world, right? And I'm not a political guy, and I just try and stay away from that. I'm a family guy. I like to motivate, inspire people, and educate. So that's my world. So yes, I'm involved with what goes on all over the globe, but from a trading perspective, I need to hyper-focus on what's here. I come to the floor of the stock exchange. Being a broker here avails me of certain information that is very exclusive. It's not inside information, it's information. It's a matter of how do I source that information? How do I sort the information? And how do I trade off that information? And that's how I go forward.
Amazing. Well, yeah, thank you so much for joining us today, Peter. Super influential and covered the story perfect. We're going to go into a short intermission, and then we'll introduce Chuck, our next speaker. But because of time, we'll extend it slightly. We'll go into about 10:15 before our next speaker. Again, Peter, thank you so much, and feel free to grab anything else outside.
You know what? I'll just say one last quick thing. It was an honor to be with you guys. I'm honored actually to be the first speaker because your two next speakers are major, significant entrepreneurs. Deep respect to them. Anyone, look, my life's goal is to inspire and motivate you. If any of you want to reach out to me, I'm easily reachable. Cam can find me. I'm on social media. I'm here to motivate and inspire you to be your best self. I have an amazing amount of energy, as you can see. So please reach out. I'm there for you. Thanks again.
Awesome.
I'm honored to.
Thanks, Peter.
Go Backle. Woo!